You're listening to Tapestry, a podcast by a music lover for a music lover. I'm your host, Kelly. Join me as I learn about the common thread that weaves throughout our lives, music. Welcome to episode 22 of Tapestry, where today I'm going to be sitting down and having a pretty hilarious chat with Katie Thompson, and I was actually staying at her house. I was out in Indianapolis to go see her band, and things kind of went awry, but the interview is pretty damn funny, I think, and we cover a lot of stuff. I'm not even going to mention her bands now because she's in a million, but you'll hear about them in the episode. But across all of that, did end up covering a couple things, including the pitfalls of mixing money with music, what's upcoming for her progressive metal project Chiasma, as well as her other collaborations, and how she created an electronic pop project about a mannequin to hone her production skills and to also pitch for a technical death metal band. You're listening to Starboard, which is off her band Chiasma's 2016 album Human Element. I hate doing introductions, especially when I'm sitting in your house and you've made me breakfast and coffee today.
Yes.
So I can't really start this interview by saying, I have with me today Katie Thompson because I'm in Katie's house. So
I have with me today Kelly Phillips in Katie Thompson's house.
yeah, there we go. That's perfect. But yeah, if you don't know who Katie is, you will learn about her in the next coming hour. But she's one of my favorite vocalists, has become a good friend, and has a billion fucking projects going on that I'm sure I'm going to pick her brain about. But if you listen to Fallujah, you may recognize her voice, as she was one of the two female vocalists that contributed some backing tracks and vocals to that album Dreamless. So if you don't know her, that's where you might recognize her from. But I'm going to turn it over to you, and then why don't you just talk about all the projects you're involved in?
Okay.
Many
projects. My local and main passion project would be Chiasma, and that is kind of a progressive metal. I don't know why I said kind of. It is a progressive metal band here in Indianapolis, and we've been going since about 2014, I would say. Prior to that, I had kind of dicked around a little bit in the local scene and played a bit, but that was really my launch into believing I could do something seriously. From there, I have a project with some great guys in Russia. One is called Kadebra, and we had an album released. Oh no,
2018.
Was it 2018?
Yeah,
okay, 2018.
Yep.
That is a Dune themed, inspired Frank Herbert's Dune album. It's an 8-track little dude, and then I'm doing some other stuff here in the future with the guitarist of that band under a new name, Tetrascape. And then I also work with a very talented Canadian gentleman named Kyle, and we go by Plagued Raven. He had a pretty established fan base for like instrumental ambient guitars, and he finally decided to take the plunge and add some vocals to it. So it's kind of a little eccentric, a little out there, and it's very cool. I really enjoy working on that, and we released an album also in 2018. Our first album together, and then I don't know, I have various other covers with many different people, and I always feel really bad because I know I'm leaving somebody out, and I value everyone I work with. So
I have a small sampling of the list. I know you've gotten to do stuff with another Indianapolis band, Hatchling, like tech death stuff.
Yep.
Recode the Subliminal. I actually don't know a lot about Madness, the guy that you did like that kind of folk. Isn't he in Germany or something?
He's in Germany. He is the nicest guy, and he does all kinds of he does like folk cinematic. He even does a little alt rock. And that's right, I did a few songs with him for his last album, and he even took a song I had written, and I said, hey, I need a home for this, and I think it would fit, and he took it over, and I'm so thankful because I don't tend to write songs from the ground up and release them, so it was nice to have something like that out in the open. I have some other, I think I'm very behind on a commission he and I are working on together. So I need to get on that. But yeah, he's a great musician and friend.
Lovely. Well, yeah, I was like taking notes on all this. Like, I obviously am a fan of all your projects, so I follow them, but like writing them down in a list was kind of absurd, just how many things you keep yourself busy with. And like, I always wonder how you're able to keep it all straight and kind of keep your notes organized and what you're working on for one person in one country, in one place, and at one time. And you've told me a little bit about your writing process, but how do you handle just, you know, you're working on the stuff for Kadebra with people in Russia, you're working on Plague Raven stuff in Canada, Germany, you're all over the place. So how does that writing process kind of work, and how do you keep it all straight?
Yeah. So 2 answers to that. So first, the organizational, keeping it straight. I feel like I'm always trying to figure out how to do that, and I have not figured that out. I've tried many different things. I'm definitely a list person, and so I will have many different lists where I'm just constantly switching priorities in and out. I have a spreadsheet somewhere that's like supposed to be a master spreadsheet, but I often forget about it and update it like every 6 months. And then like, honestly, like I've gotten lazier and lazier in my organizational approach, in that I know people always, it's just like any other work, being at work, and somebody's like, oh, I want this now, but do they really want it now, and are they really ready? So it's just always kind of like filling out who is actually ready to go, what's going to be released most quickly, and like where do I focus in my time to be most efficient, so like I'm not rushing to finish something that winds up being released 6 months later, which that's frustrating. And then what else am I answering? How do I keep it all straight? And
most of the international collaboration, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the internet obviously makes it really easy, so I just I need to work on this, because I feel like I message people in so many different venues. I've got like too many email addresses going. I've got too many social media platforms where like, oh, this is where I talk to this guy, but this is where I talk to this guy. Some of that is kind of necessary if you want to meet people where they are. So I do a little bit of that, but yeah, I don't know. It's all I'm learning from answering this question is it's very harebrained and chaotic, and somehow things get done anyways. And I don't know. Magic.
Well, I know you're a journaler and a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
We're both big spreadsheet fans here, and tend to organize the same way. But meanwhile, you had to like help me set up my microphones for this interview, so whatever. You know, different place, different setup. But
that's right.
Oh boy, I'm looking through my list. I have all these lovely questions, and I'm like figuring out how to string them together when I'm...
Let's just do really disjointed, and now we can talk about cheese or something.
Yeah, I figured we'd talk about cheese, but... well, okay, so I know you're the daughter of a pastor, and...
yeah.
I'm not going to get into...
Here we go, guys.
No, I'm not going to get into that topic so much, but, you know, growing up in a church setting, you have a musical background, I'm sure. So how did you end up becoming a piano player?
Yeah.
Give me your musical history.
That's a great question, because I definitely owe a lot of musical opportunities to church. And I think a lot of kids in my generation probably did. I was always very musical because both my parents were musical. So I remember as, I don't know, I feel like 6 or 7 years old, and I would sit in the back seat, and I thought I was doing these really sneaky like flourishes and embellishments to the songs on the radio, and I would think, oh, I bet they don't even notice that I'm singing this part and it blends in perfectly, and like in reality it was probably the 7-year-old back there going but so I was always kind of singing and playing around, but I started taking piano lessons when I was, I don't know, 4th grade or so. Everybody was doing it, and I was really jealous, and I got a fantastic piano teacher for my music type. Like, she was very creative. She was very open to me kind of modifying things and writing my own stuff. And so I took lessons with her for a couple years, and then when she moved away, I got with a teacher that was very technical and very by the book, and I was destroyed. I remember I would cry. I rode my bike to practice or to piano lessons, and I would cry the whole way there. And then I would suffer through it, and that didn't last very long, because I think I was very quickly realizing I was more into the creativity and the writing than necessarily being proficient technically. So from there, church, they were always having me play. They were always having me sing in whatever choir or praise team type situation. And then, of course, I then started a all-girls punk kind of Christian band, Christian enough so that we were allowed to play at church. But I was also writing songs about Zelda, and I very distinctly remember playing a show at a church, and the one of my peers at that church said, "Thanks, but we don't really want you back because this wasn't really about the Lord." And so they saw through my BS. And from there, like, once I started doing that, I think that's how, once I started playing out a little bit, you start meeting other kids that are playing, and then there you go, you're in the local scene.
That explains so much, though, like Zelda. Well, just because, to me, like, speaking to you as a fan and a friend, it's just funny because, like, okay, so what's the thing that I like about your music in general, whether it's Chiasma or Kadebra or any of your projects? I think it's just the fact that you can write parts that are very visually, like, they create a visual image. And fiction and, you know, those like magical kind of places, I think, play a big role in your music. And like, what is it about, I guess, having music as the platform to deliver that kind of vivid, magical message?
I think, I was also a creative writing major in college, and I think it was just really drilled into me. And I also noticed how, like, as a book reader, what I appreciated was always the show don't tell kind of deal. And I'm not a great lyricist, and I have a really hard time getting started with lyrics, but the fastest way I can start actually writing a song is if I try to be like, okay, well, let's first just try to describe, like, time and place and, like, something concrete, because I think it just naturally, you kind of filter in emotions into your word choice, your adjective choice, whatever, and then suddenly you're on a roll.
That's true. Looking at your influences too, I know you were the one that introduced me to Splashdown and Melissa Kaplan's project, but your musical influences are all kind of like image heavy people, like Devin Townsend, like Opeth, like Cynic, and
yeah, that's true.
That shows through in all of your projects, I think. But I was just thinking about the Splashdown thing and how I kept for a long time confusing Melissa Kaplan with Melissa Cross, who of course is totally not like
very
cool
people.
Cool groovy electronic alt pop, and is instead like the woman who teaches a bunch of singers how to scream.
Yep.
So
that's funny.
Yeah. Now, in developing your talent as a singer, what was the point where you decided you were gonna cross over into, you know, doing like shouts, opera lessons to I'm gonna just start screaming stuff?
I don't know. I never felt like so much feedback I got when I was singing as a teenager. I remember people were always like, "Oh, it's just not very emotive. Like, she can't do much." And it was always heartbreaking because I'm like, I'm singing the hardest I can. So I think I slowly wanted to break out of the box and just have like every possible tool available to express whatever. Because all the vocalists I really admire, like, oh no, I'm going to destroy her name. The woman that sings with Igor, Laura something. She
I can't help you here.
She
Sorry.
can just like, I just love any vocalist that can just go from like church choir straight into like demon zone all at once, because I feel like humans are just so dynamic, and to really express your full range of emotion, it's just more fun if you have all those techniques available. So the fry scream is still a work in progress, but we're slowly challenging ourselves.
Yeah, we're kind of as a team trying to keep nagging ourselves to get that down. It's a constant race as to which one of us will learn it first. But
yeah, if you're out there and you tried to learn a fry scream and you figured it out within your first few times, like, you can go run off a cliff. I don't understand how people get it so quickly. It is so difficult. I think I'm just so worried about damaging my voice that I'm like coming at it so timidly, and I cannot get it, and it's driving me insane.
Yep.
Yeah,
well, that's a funny topic to bring up, because I just think it is kind of surreal that I'm sitting here in your house, and it's just weird because, you know, we kind of became friends through my fangirling of mostly Chiasma, but through that, you know, you kind of became sort of a mentor to me for just like, hey, just be yourself when you sing. Just, okay, you have some baseline talent, and here's how you hone it, here's how you do this. Don't worry about what other people think. But I think a lot of your role in getting that out of me stemmed from just like the culture that we live in that says, okay, women can't scream, women can't do this. And I think back to how you had that crazy mannequin project.
Oh yeah.
And all of your other like little like
I forgot. I didn't
projects.
list that in my projects. Yes.
Yeah. Please explain to the class what the mannequin project was.
This is going to go on too long. You're going to want to cut this because there's so much to this.
I got all the time in the world.
Okay. So back in, I don't know when that would have been, 2015 or so, I was taking a bike ride, and we rode by this house, and it was just kind of like a surreal dream. I stopped, and in the window there was this like lit up shrine and a mannequin in the window just looking out at the street, and it was very, very interesting. And then so I started riding by this house constantly at night to see if the mannequin would be out, and she always was, and she was always dressed very appropriately for the season, a big holiday celebrator. And so I was like, I started thinking about all the things I could do with mannequin, and I was thinking about music, obviously, and I had a great, my best friend, she does almost all my photography and video stuff, so I'm like, this could be a perfect partnership. And she used to sing in that church punk band, so I knew she could sing. So I was looking for a way to practice production and mixing, because at the time I was taking some lessons in that because I wanted to be more independent. So it was like, oh, well, I'll just start making like a little pop album for this mannequin. She'll be like the main focal point. We'll just have fun with it. So we did a few videos with that, and I sent that to Fallujah when they were looking for a vocalist. I was like, hey, this is something I did that shows my voice. What do you think? So anyway, full circle, that mannequin project happened, and then wound up buying the house that the mannequin was in. In fact,
I didn't know that.
I like get some goosebumps. She used to stand right here.
Oh, that's
right
so
here,
weird.
in this window.
Is the room where it happened.
So now she's kind of gone into retirement.
Is she here in the house?
She's in the house. She's she kind of felt like, you know, me and my best friend were kind of taking the spotlight from her a little bit, so she was a little jealous. So the mannequin hasn't been very active recently, but she did come out she was a snowman for a bit for me. Had her out in the front yard, but yeah.
That is awesome. I knew a little bit about the project. I knew it was kind of your way to develop recording and mastering skills and stuff, but oh, that's freaking awesome. So it's like the mannequin version of like the women who buy like the goose and put it in their front yard and dress it up.
She dressed it up. She was on it. She had her own Facebook page. Like, I started looking into it, and so man, it was very, very weird when I wound up buying this house. of course that would happen. I don't know.
Naturally. That's so awesome. Oh, that's great. So that's a good segue to talk about Fallujah, I guess.
Yeah.
That is, to be honest, pretty ballsy, sending your mannequin, like goofy electronic mannequin project to Fallujah, being, you know, this pretty much like top of their class technical death metal band.
For sure.
And like I was saying at the start of this, if you didn't know who Katie was already, you've probably heard her voice but just didn't know her name. And how did that entire inclusion on their album Dreamless even come to be?
They did a Facebook call out where they were looking for female vocalists, and Ian, who is also in Chiasma and he's in Hatchling, he saw it and he tagged me. And so then I just messaged him and I sent them some stuff, and it happened pretty quickly. I was flattered and surprised because there were a lot of people that responded. So maybe the mannequin was like the thing that set me apart. I don't know. So yeah, it was very chill. Like I recorded a few nights at home and sent them the tracks, and then it happened. Now it's a great thing to have on the resume.
Yeah, that's like, well, you know, inanimate existence kind of, I don't want to say stole it, because it's not like they have a, you know, monopoly on ambient female vocals in the background, but I just remember going, Fallujah did it first. And, like, their album came out right after that, and
it did become trendy. I think it's great. Like, it's such an obvious thing to add in some texture, like just add in some voices, add in some, I mean, symphonic metal's been doing that forever with choirs and nonsense, so I don't know.
Nonsense. I believe on record, probably we both are avid power metal haters, correct?
Well, I don't.
Sorry, I'm putting you on blast right here.
Blast. I like. There's such a charm, and I you know, how do you know if you're listening to something ironically or for real? I don't know, because sometimes I'm like, I gotta blast the cheesiest song I can think of, and it's usually a power metal song, and I'm like getting amped up for something. But in general, like, I'm sorry, I just can't make it through the whole album of
Camelot.
It's just a bit much. Although I have seen Camelot, and they were great
really?
at the time. But I also distinctly remember when I went to a Camelot show, this guy was talking to me, and he was very into like, oh, you're into power metal? And I was like, yeah, kind of. And he asked me who else I liked, and I said Opeth, and he's like, oh, you like other metal? And I didn't know this was a thing. I was like, yeah, like,
yes.
Don't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I don't know. Power metal's, it has its place.
Well, you did have your maybe it's not a phase, maybe it's just subdued, you know,
okay.
Tristania and Within Temptation and Nightwish and all that kind of like the gothic female fronted metal craze.
100%. I think I was such a hipster at 15 or 16 that Evanescence was too mainstream for me, and I had to go deeper. And so the first time I heard, I think it was Pharaoh Sails to Orion by Nightwish. Actually,
that's a song title.
Dude, that song is I remember I found them because they did a cover of a song from The Snowman, which was this
the book?
Well,
the sad book
and
movie?
It was a movie, and there's like,
I love The Snowman.
That movie has like no dialogue, but then that one song has vocals, and I remember I loved it. So then I'm like, oh, this Finnish woman is singing it, and I loved it. So then that was in the days of like Napster or LimeWire or something, and we had just a regular old dial-up connection. There it is.
Oh yeah.
And so I remember sitting with my friend Gabrielle, and it would be downloading, and we'd come back to the computer every 10 minutes to preview what was downloaded. And so Pharaoh Sails to Orion was like, well, this is by this artist, so we'll check it out. And it was very different. And I remember being like, I have never heard anything like this. And so that was my thing. That was my way out of being into like alternative female fronted rock in America.
I'm just sitting here shaking my head at the fact that, like, when I just thought it was possible, we cannot be more similar in a lot of ways. I loved The Snowman.
It's so good.
It's such a depressing but really beautiful.
It's beautiful
book, and I know my mom will listen to this episode, so I have. She still has at her house a little plush snowman.
Oh my god!
I used to have him on my bed. Like
I'll
all
get
the
out the
time.
VHS after this. And
Nice.
You can see the.
Nice.
It's great. Oh man.
The snowman is like way darker than it should be. I never thought I would be talking about the snowman pretty much ever again, but here I am. So
classic.
So that's a good place to bring up. I think, you know, you're the front woman of a band and you're working with all other guys. Most of your collaborators have been men, and I feel like you have to kind of be band mom sometimes. So what's your commentary on like I don't know. I think there's just a lot going on in the metal world when it comes to women, especially vocalists, because there's kind of that like, well, you're just the singer, sort of thing.
For sure.
Except in your case, you're not, because you also do keys.
Yeah, and it's embarrassing to admit, but it's almost like I feel like I have to do that just to be a little more legitimate. Like I definitely felt that. Oh, I can't just be the singer. Like, that's so lame. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole can of worms that Kelly and I have talked about plenty, full disclosure.
All the time.
It's just a kind of situation by situation thing. I think, like, being a female front of band, it's going to help you and it's also going to hinder you. I get opportunities I might not necessarily get otherwise because I am still kind of not the norm. On the other hand, there's so much gatekeeping, like even just it's taken me a long time even to get bandmates or anybody to see that, like, oh, I actually know my way around a DAW and I can like mix a song for you. And so in that way I kind of just like pedal myself out to try and be like, let me prove to you that I am as competent as you. But once people I think most people, once they pick up on, oh, she's proficient, then it's not a thing anymore. But there's definitely still those lingering attitudes, and it's changing so stinking fast. And I can't wait for us to just be able to be as mediocre as the men, you know? It doesn't have to be like, oh, her screams aren't brutal. It can be just like, oh, this is like, she's fine. I don't know.
That's true. I think it was... If she's listening to this out here is Natalie that I interviewed from Cabinets of Curiosity, who had said like men make something and they show it to everybody and it can be complete freaking garbage and they're like, look at this awesome thing I made, and then there's both of us, we're like terrified to share our vocal covers on the internet or something. But
for sure
you put a lot of vocal covers on the internet and it's like a wide variety of stuff. I mean, you've done a lot of acoustic stuff, you've done whatever the hell you feel like, and every now and then I'll go to your YouTube channel to watch one and I'm just like, this comment section is going to be a minefield.
It's so funny. It's mostly
it seems pretty positive. It's
mostly positive, but some of the insults are just really great. Like they're just really funny, and I don't know where these people are at. Like I don't know.
What's your favorite insult? Do you have one?
I wish I should keep a running list, because there's definitely some I just like have to read out loud to like friends I'm with, because I'm like, look at this bullshit. But it's really funny because I don't know, like the type of person who bothers to spend the time doing that. I don't know. I've never written a mean thing on YouTube, so I just move on. I don't know how sad you gotta be to like be like, oh, I'm gonna tear this bitch down.
Yeah, if I don't like it, I just don't listen to it.
Yeah,
pretty much. That's so stupid.
Funny. It's so funny.
It's so stupid. Well, it's like, you know, okay, so you do a lot of covers, like you've done them with Ian from your bands, you've done them solo, you've collaborated with all these other people. Like, have you had to kind of adapt your working process for all these projects? Like, do you find that the distinct personalities of your bandmates and your collaborators makes a difference in what you write and how you write it?
Yeah, I think that's why I've been lucky to have so many collaborations. Is like one skill set I definitely know I have is I'm very adaptable, almost to a point of like I have to make sure I'm still being sincere. But I'm very good at kind of melding to whatever I need to be for that particular situation. So yeah, it's definitely different, like as far as like how much control I know someone wants me to take versus other people. I'm like, I let them do it and then just kind of add to it or whatever. It just depends. Yeah.
Now, that being said, like I think you you as a singer, I think you have your own distinct flair, but then I listen to all your projects and it's kind of like, I want this one for a certain flavor, this one for a certain flavor. But what always gets me is, I guess, the subject matter, because like you've now written an album about Dune.
Yeah.
The album you worked on with Kyle was like the angels, demons kind of thing. And then you have the, you were telling me last night about the alien, Tetrascape's kind of alien stuff going on.
So is the Chiasma. Both have jumped into the sci-fi alien bandwagon, but
trust me, as the host, don't take that to mean that it's garbage sci-fi music. I specifically wrote this down before this interview, and my current listening stats for your band is over 1,500, so it's good shit.
Holy cow.
It's good shit. Listen to it.
I want to defend myself and say, yet again, hipster Katie's coming in hot and saying, I was watching Star Trek Next Gen, like, as soon as it was on. Like, I was probably a toddler watching old Picard on screen. So sci-fi has always been a thing I was into. And then, the most recent Chiasma album that we're writing, I was hot on the Expanse series, the books. So there's a lot pulled from that. And Tetrascape, we'll see what's going on. Still writing that.
I'm excited. Yeah. What's the kind of timeline for that? Just whenever it makes its way out of your brain.
Together. I have all the ideas ready, and I think the music is pretty much ready. And the poor guitarist, he's very, very patient with me. I used to be much more productive, and then life kind of got a little wild there for a bit. So now I'm trying to, I'm very much a person that needs like large chunks of time to write, and I have not had that. So I just need to take a week off here or there and do it.
Yeah, you need to not invite people over to your house and cart my ass around all weekend.
No.
But it was worth it. Got to eat my Chicago style pizza, and I could have died and gone to heaven. So lovely. You really should write a giant album all about
I could definitely
pizza.
Food is something I'm very, very passionate about. Yeah. And anybody listening, if you want to be like, New York better than Chicago better than New York, just let them both exist. Stop the hate. They're both beautiful.
# all pizza matters. Pizza lives matter.
God, that's so true.
Well, pizza lives do matter.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many conversations have we had about cheese. Just cheese.
It's a recurring theme in my life and friend groups all over. They say it's as addictive as, what do they say? Is it like cocaine or like, I don't know. It's supposed to be very, very addictive. You definitely get some sort of high off
like
of cheese.
dopamine response from cheese.
Yep.
Oh, I never knew.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm just embracing it.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, no, you don't have a pizza fanny pack, do you?
I don't. I do. I was just going too gross gimmicky with all the pizza things I owned, and like I want to be myself, but I also at some point it's like, do we really need to broadcast this so extremely that I'm into pizza? Like, it's not that unique of an identity trait. No. So I don't know.
Katie is the fanny pack queen.
Yes.
That is also going on record, like, for sure. You were such a dear to have at that show in Columbus, because you're like, here, I'll just take all your shit and put it in my fanny pack. We went to go see Ginger together in Columbus.
That's right.
That was the night I peed my pants, and you were standing next to me. Like,
Kelly goes hard. Kelly goes really hard.
It's not my proudest moment, but yet here I am putting it in my podcast. I gotta be real, okay? I gotta be real when I talk to my guests and when I put it out there. And
it's something to respect.
I think. About that. Well, you've told other people about it.
I can't hold it in.
Apparently a legend now.
It was something to behold. It was not. I mean, anybody can go in a mosh pit. Anybody can drink Jaeger. It takes a special woman to mosh so hard that she pees her pants. Like, that's something.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, like, my big wish is that you and any of your projects really would just be able to play out more. And I understand that life gets in the way, and you also have a 5-piece to try to worry about, and you know, your band members are involved in other projects. But what would be kind of the ideal track? I mean, I'm mostly talking about Chiasma, but
okay,
any of your projects for playing out, touring, that sort of deal.
Like, what would be an ideal future kind of playing schedule? We don't want to join the hustle. Like, I feel like we're all a little older. We're not in our early 20s anymore, and we're not feeling like, oh, we've got to make it in this business. Like, we do this because we love the music, we love the writing and the creativity, and we do love to perform, but we're not necessarily in a place in life anymore where we're gonna sacrifice an arm and a leg and a week's sleep just to, you know, drive in a crappy van and go on tour. So I think like our ideal situation would just be little bursts of like regional tours, weekends that are something of a, I don't want to say vacation, but like not necessarily the kind of grind that I see some bands doing, which like I completely admire and respect. I don't mean to be talking that down. It's like I just don't know that I have it in me.
Yeah, you're not like, oh, we got to go get in front of Sumerian Records and get a record deal by next month.
Yeah, and Kelly and I have talked about this before, and it's I like want to roll my eyes before I say it, but I'm not even sure that I like mixing money with music, and I fully understand people make a living making art, and I wish it was valued more. But for me, I love not having strings attached. That's my approach. I don't want to have to be beholden to anything or anyone. So I don't even know that I would love a big record deal. It sounds glamorous. There's still that part of me that's like, oh, I'm going to be a rock star. But mostly I'd just rather go and meet real people and play real songs that I stand by in a smaller capacity and do that.
I think the small shows are the best. Yeah. I mean, I did get to see your band play in a garage last night, so it was pretty awesome. Yeah. And I was like loving every minute of it. And for the record, they sounded really awesome in a garage. So
thank you.
If you can sound awesome in a garage, you can probably sound awesome on a stage. I believe you.
I hope.
No, like touring life, I mean, I'm not a touring musician, but touring life just seems like such a bunch of bullshit, and I don't know how people go through that.
Yeah, I'm a very cranky person without a routine, like sleep and eating schedule. I just think I would be a nightmare. I think I would have a breakdown very quickly into the touring cycle.
Well, you have Project Hero is kind of your other
thing.
Yeah. And I just thought about that, like,
yeah,
that kind of encapsulates your attitude towards how you like to perform and like how often and where.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about that.
Project Hero is a band I joined late in their career. I was on their very last album, and New Era, I think is, New Era is definitely a song. It might be the album title. It's been a long time, and there's a music video out there. You can see me playing keys on top of a roof up in Indy. It's really, it's a nice view. It's kind of more like Foo Fighters type rock. But yeah, we used to play out a lot. Now it's just kind of gone down to like, there's a yearly festival we play up in Ludington, Michigan, which is coming up in July, and it's fun. It's really low key. It's like, oh, we'll just get together and jam a little bit and have fun with it.
What is of the like small regional touring things? Well, for one thing, I mean, I came in this weekend because there was supposed to be a show.
There was supposed to be a show. Poor Kelly got screwed.
Whatever. I got a fucking garage show.
She got a garage show.
Who gets to say that about one of your favorite bands? Oh, cool. I got to see them play in a garage. But anyway, like, touring can be disastrous, and I think you have told me about some of your nightmare stories of, like, just performing. Like, what has been your best... Give me an example of your best touring or performing experience and probably your worst.
Okay. The best, I feel like it's gonna be tied. There was the first show we played up in a town called Lafayette in Indiana at a theater, And it was kind of the first time I realized, like, oh crap, like we actually sold a lot of CDs, and a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this is great. And the lighting was great. And like, I don't know what the sound was like. It was fine. And it was well promoted, and it was just like, oh, this is what it could feel like if you're like starting to like blossom. And that felt really good. And we also played this other show that was so wacky, and it was at a brewery, and it was a local band every year does like a circus themed type show. And so there was also like one of those acts, like a circus act.
Yeah, carny
yeah,
stuff, I guess.
That was going on, and there was like some bands, and it was really well attended, and the beer was great, and they had a pinball machine, and it was just like the right vibe, the right amount of people. I don't know, it felt very community centered type feeling, felt very welcome. So that was one of the best. One of the worst, there's been many rough shows in the past. I typically bring up, and I know, so this is the second time Kelly hears this story, but I was sick as a dog for one show, and I didn't even have a speaking voice, and so I was just kind of like, oh, I'll just chug a bunch of Dayquil and whiskey right before I get on stage and hope that something comes out of my throat. And this show was just, the sound was awful. It was like in a giant, it feels like a pole barn, basically. That's like with no like sound dampening, just like echoing off these concrete floors. And there is some of Indiana's finest were there playing their best, and they had all manner of fights going on, and very Hilljack. It was one for the books for sure. There were fights between the audience and the band on stage in real time, and it was something. I survived, and I did sing, and we did get some new fans somehow from that night, so I'll take it as a win overall.
You won the shit show. Congratulations. You made it out alive.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's awesome. I really like the story that you told me one time about when you went to go see Igor. You got to see them in Chicago or something, right?
Oh, I went up there. I went. I was just kind of, it was like a YOLO moment, and I was like, yeah, I'll take a megabus up to Chicago. So Chicago from Indianapolis is like 3-something hours. So I took the megabus up and back in the same night, and I went up. They were there. So I got there, and I brought my Nintendo Switch, and I was like grown-ass woman playing a Switch in a bar. And then I saw the whole Igor entourage, and I bought them drinks. But then when I went over to talk to them, it was like, they're from France. And then I'm like stumbling through like some broken French and then some English, and trying to be like, here's some drinks. They're not roofied, I promise. Like, please just accept my fangirling. And it was that they are great. Like, even though there's not a lot of live instrumentation for Igor, if you like weird stuff, I so recommend. Like, the vocal performance was unreal. The theatrics in the performance were just really great. That was a really good show. I was really, really happy I went there. My ride back on the megabus was a freaking nightmare, because it was, I think I got back at like 4 a.m. Indie time. And so like everybody's supposed to be asleep, and the woman next to me was like man spreading her legs and on FaceTime, and I was just trying to curl up against the window and sleep, and it was something.
Is it possible to man spread if you're a woman?
I'm gonna call it that. I don't know. She was airing stuff out. I don't know what she was doing.
Oh god, megabuses are. I feel like no, actually, megabus isn't usually that bad, but Greyhound can die in a fire. I hate Greyhound buses.
They're trying so hard to like rebrand themselves, but they're just, I don't know.
Hey, would you like to get stuck on this long, smelly bus where the Wi-Fi won't work?
Yep.
Surrounded by a bunch of rude strangers for a minimum of 14 hours? Yes.
Nightmare.
Let's do that. That sounds great. It's like, what have I not covered? Well, we've covered cheese. We've covered Greyhound buses. We've covered lots of your eclectic musical projects. But, okay. So I got a little taste of it, but what is the next thing coming up for Chiasma's next album, and how is it going to be different from Human Element, your last album?
Yeah.
What's the deal?
It should be out. I'm really sorry if anybody listening to this listens to us. It should be out already. Some of the songs have been done since Human Element, at least the demos of them.
Which came out in 2016.
Yeah. A lot of life happened for all of us in those years, and then I bit off more than I could chew with my projects, and it was just a thing. But it is great. It's going to be, like I was saying earlier, sci-fi themed. I had just started reading the Expanse books when I started writing the lyrics for it, so the album's supposed to be called Reaches. Don't hold me to that if it changes.
Ooh, I don't think I knew
Reaches. And so it's all about the outer reaches of space and exploration, and ultimately a story about humanity and what makes us human and what makes us need to explore and challenge ourselves and blah, blah, blah. It was, some of the lyrics are very depressing because I wrote them at a very depressed time in my life, and I wasn't quite cognizant of it. But looking back, I'm like, God, I was depressed. Like, this sucks. But in that way, I think it's a very personal album for me, what we have done so far. And musically, I don't know. Musically, I feel like it's similar to Human Element. And just kind of carried over the same kind of writing style. I wrote a fair amount. I don't know. I've written some of this, which we slowly as a band, as we've written like Synthesis. Our first album was very much like mostly Derek and Ian's child, and Derek really kind of wrapped everything up himself. As we've gone, we've slowly like gotten more ideas in, and I've like wormed my way in, and so yeah, this album has a lot of collaborative writing. And it still sounds very, very Chiasma-ish. It'll probably be mixed by the same guy, mixed and mastered by the same guy who did the last album. So it'll be familiar to fans, but hopefully something a little new still.
Now, this popped into my brain because I bought Human Element on Bandcamp, but please explain the Keanu Reeves edition.
Sure. That's so funny. I wonder if I have any of those sitting around with, so Keanu Reeves, I would have died to touch his hand when I was 13 or 14. The Matrix came out, and it was just like, oh my God, this guy is so cool. And then it turned out he played bass in a band called Dogstar. And then that was like my middle school jam. And then I went to see him play. And I think I have like 2 disposable cameras worth of pictures from that show. There's just poorly sweaty like pictures from the audience of Keanu Reeves up with his American flag bass. So when Human Element came out, we were just looking for gimmicky ways to sell pre-orders and stuff. So we said, hey, we'll throw in an authentic 2000. Well, maybe that was even in the 90s. I can't place it. No, it would have been maybe. I really don't know. Anyway, so we were throwing in some of those pictures. So I've still got some of them. So yeah, who knows if you order something on Bandcamp and you order a CD and you say, hey, in the comments, maybe Keanu makes his way to me too. You never know what could happen.
Or just like leave a comment on the Tapestry page, and I'll make sure you get a Keanu edition of Chiasma's latest album. I didn't really actually get to touch on like your influences and how they kind of help you write what you write.
Yeah.
I think you've talked about Devin Townsend a lot with me, but
he'd be big for sure.
I'm kind of an asshole, and I don't really like Devin Townsend that much. He's too theatrical, but yet I really like your music, and I wasn't sure how that all sort of comes together.
I like my first my favorite artist when I was a kid was Enya. Very strange child. And so like she's obviously the queen of vocal layering, and like when you layer the same vocals over and over and over, it's just like perfection. All of the little pitchiness, whatever, it's all gone. It's just like this beautiful air sound. And I remember at one point Devin was playing what album had just come out? I think I saw him with Cynic, actually, in Louisville. And at the time, I like, big regret in life. I was so annoyed that is it Sean or Paul? One of them who uses a vocoder when he's singing. Paul.
Yeah.
I was so annoyed about it. I'm like, this is a cop out, that I like didn't even enjoy their set, and now I'm like, now retroactively just a huge Cynic fan. I'm like,
you literally did a cover of
that
Trace. Was it Trace in Air by Cynic or something?
I've done both. Oh no, what is that song? Million Dollars. Well, I've done 2 Cynic covers since, so I love them. But anyway, I got to see Devin after the show, and I said, hey, you are like Enya meets metal to me. Like, I love your vocal layering. It's like what I'm all about. And he was like, very much like, yeah, I love Enya too. So I think that was just, I saw an application for something I had always loved with something I now love, metal. Like, so it's just like, oh, you get to do whatever you want. You actually don't have to like, prior to that, I thought like I would never sing in metal because it was like you needed to be like an alto or like a mezzo, have that belty Amy Lee voice. And that was always the feedback I got too, like, oh, you got such a screechy high voice, like, oh. So when I realized like, oh, there's a place for like this pretty soft, like airy, ethereal thing, which is now like since it's become a lot more popular, especially with the tech death stuff and as the background. So Devin was just kind of a light into that world. Like, oh, you can do whatever you want. Oh, okay.
No, that's true. And that actually kind of makes me think about the fact that you have kind of dabbled in like the film scoring world, and you're starting, it sounds like you want to get further into that, and your voice is perfect for it, because it's like, in a world where men are at war, only an angel can save us from destruction.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. We're gonna be famous.
I think the film stuff, like, I shouldn't say this because it's just, well, I started, so it's just like, it's just so easy. It's so easy. Like, I don't know, that's such a natural skill for me, is to just do those dumb oohs and ahs and just sound really like you're whisper singing. Like, how soft can you sing? So that, like, it's fun, and cinematic music can just be so stinking dramatic, and it's just like a fun time to just go over the top, and so I'm into it for that reason.
As a big Two Steps from Hell fan, at a certain point you can only listen to so much Two Steps from Hell before I'm like, somebody shut this bitch up.
Yep.
Oh my god. I forgot that you actually got to talk to Devin. That's pretty cool.
I've gotten to talk to him a few times because I have been a creep and really stalked him. He is so stinking nice and just so, I don't know, he's so open, and he immediately overshares, like, and I kind of have that problem where I have to like try and like rein myself back if I get nervous. It's just like, let me tell you about my trauma history, and like, let's talk about family systems.
That's how we became friends.
Yeah. So Devin was super cool to talk to, and I don't know. I admire him a lot. I like his later albums. I understand why people wouldn't be into him. I can't say I've listened as much as I used to. Like, Terria was like my jam, and Syncestra back in the day, but now I'm like,
Terria's the one I do like, because it's
less so good. And obviously
weird.
Strapping Young Lad is like ultimate gym music, but
that is true. Oh yeah, that's true. I should have had that prepared. Like your ultimate gym playlist, but I mean, you also have had a weeb history too.
Yeah, it's so, like, it's a combo of J-pop
gym playlist.
Yeah, some of that and some Arcspire and some, whatever.
What a winning combo.
I know you know how it goes with a playlist that jumps to every extreme.
Yeah, no, that was like one of the coolest things ever. Like, I love building playlists for people, and now I can't stop. And I have literally had a playlist that I made for Katie like a year ago at this point. And I'm like, oh, here's a song she might like. Here's a song. And I'm like, this is not really applicable to anything. Like,
no, it's great.
There's like 700 songs in it.
Some say she'll be listening to it for the next 20 years. Yeah. It's incredible. Kelly's knowledge of music is incredible. Everyone should know.
I don't know about that, but thanks. Well, okay, then I have 2 questions
Yeah.
left. Basically, one,
Yeah.
whether it's with you solo or Kadebra or Chiasma or whatever, what artist would you want to open for? Like dream artist? Would it be Devin?
He would be up there. Oh man, like I don't know why I'm such a disgusting fangirl for Splashdown, and they're not a band anymore. They haven't been a band since the 90s. I never knew them while they were active, but I'm the biggest fangirl for their singer. She's incredible. And Chiasma would be probably a little heavy for their scene, but even still, I think that would probably be it if I could assemble a band that's not live current now.
Right. Yeah, bring them back from hiatus.
Yeah.
For that express purpose.
But for now, like if there's a band, there's so many that I would just be over the moon to play for. I wish I could have gotten on the Ginger Show, even though we're not quite djenty or groove, maybe enough for that scene, but I love that band.
I think you guys would fit with Ginger enough.
It'd be fun.
It would be awesome either way. And then naturally, I always have to ask,
Yeah.
what are your 3 albums that you couldn't live without?
I knew this was coming. I didn't think about it. I'm
Well,
so annoyed with
goddamn
my
it.
past self. What was I doing? Okay. Top 3 albums that I couldn't live without.
Or like, if you only had to listen to them forever, what would they be?
One would definitely be Watermark by Enya, for sure. Maybe Blackwater Park by Opeth. And, oh no, like the third one is like, oh, which direction do I go? Let's be honest, Katie, what's it going to be? It might be, and like I would need to look at a list of the songs to figure out which one it is. It's either Blue Shift or Red Shift by Splashdown, probably. But then it's also like, oh, there's some other heavier bands out there. Like, would I want Devin Townsend or would I want I don't know.
I gotta stop asking this question, but it's like now my MO, because some people it just pisses them off immediately. They're like, oh,
yeah,
how am I supposed to pick
you
3?
gave me so much prep for this, and I was like, it will piss me off. I better think about this. And now I know tomorrow I'm gonna be like, oh, that's the third band I should have said. God damn it.
Well, too bad. It's out there now.
It's out there. Everybody go ahead and judge me and say, obviously you were missing this niche in your 3...
You clearly don't have a Hungarian avant-garde jazz black band on your list. What kind of idiot are you? God.
Oh, because Gorod could be... I really love me
Is
some
Gorod your favorite tech death band?
If that's what
in terms of tech death, instead of tech death, like not considering tech death bands you've actually sung on their album for?
I don't know, because then... I love old BT Bam. I'm wearing a BT Bam shirt right now, actually. So color,
the NASA one, may I add, which is the coolest BT Bam merch.
The coolest one.
Tommy Rogers, if you're listening to this, we both really like you.
Yeah, colors could be another one that I'd like as my third. Damn it.
Well,
I know.
You'll
It's
have
too
to
late.
get back to me. Whatever.
Yeah, I forget what your question was. Favorite tech death? I don't know. Gorod's up there. I love Archspire. I love Beyond Creation a lot.
Somehow I'll have to make that happen with Archspire.
I don't know.
Archspire,
I'm sorry.
whatever.
I should know. I don't know. I've seen you guys quite a few times. Sorry.
Phonetically, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
But, that just bringing the female vocal enrichment to modern
I wonder
tech
how
death.
it would feel.
You'd
I
have
don't-
to sing really fucking fast.
Yeah, I don't know who could keep up with Ollie.
He's such a meme lord too. I don't know. I feel like that's.
He'd probably make me cry, and I'd be like, I can't do this. I'm too sensitive.
No, this is your homework for when I stop recording this. Is send the mannequin.
I should
send the mannequin videos to Ollie.
That
from
might be
Archspire.
something they would get.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well.
Good plan.
Yeah. Okay. Well. I guess I'm going to end this interview, but thanks for letting me interview you in your house.
100%.
And eat your food and drink your coffee.
Kelly came here to see a show and then wound up in a garage, so let's all applaud Kelly for bothering to fly all the way out here.
It was worth it. It was
It's
really
been a
good.
joy.
And I can say that Chiasma album number 3 should probably be pretty badass.
It should be
I got
pretty
to hear
good.
2 of the new songs and they're great. So,
All right, so as a constant shill of all of Katie's projects and a big fan, I definitely implore you to go look up all of her stuff online. Her primary project, Chiasma, which is what you're listening to now underneath me speaking, is they're Chiasma the Band on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, that sort of thing. That's Chiasma. But all of her other projects, I'll try to drop at least one link to those in the episode description so you can check out her stuff with The Plagued Raven, Kadebra, Tetrascape forthcoming, and some other collaborations she's done. So, as always, thanks for listening.